Chapter 91. 91, True Dragon's Remnant Soul. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 91. True Dragon's Remnant Soul. Translator. Endless Fantasy Translation Editor. Endless Fantasy Translation. For half a year, Jiang Hao had stayed in the Cliff of Broken Hearts and didn't step out, but he still kept an eye on Lu Xingchen. However, neither Lu Xingchen nor the Demoness had come to visit Jiang Hao at that time. He had used that time to cultivate and practice mindfulness. Jiang Hao had constantly worried that something might happen to Lu Xingchen. Even then, he couldn't warn him. Now that Lu Xingchen was making his way to Jiang Hao's house, he noticed that something was terribly wrong. Jiang Hao had spent much of his time studying the Nameless Manual. He sensed that something was wrong with Lu Xingchen's aura. Perhaps it was dragon energy. Has he already been completely possessed? Jiang Hao activated the daily appraisal ability. Lu Xingchen. True disciple of the heavenly faction. Born with the aura of a dragon and a cultivation base at the peak of the Golden Core realm. Nothing better to do than be a spy for the Heavenly Note Sect's Law Enforcement Hall. He was bored, so he let the True Dragon's Remnant Soul possess him. The reason he is on good terms with you is so that can get close to the heavenly fragrance Dao flower to watch it carefully. Quite interested in you. Jiang Hao was speechless. Was he just hallucinating? How could Lu Xingchen be so bored that he would let something possess him to just have a good show? Jiang Hao sighed inwardly. He really couldn't understand the different types of disciples in this sect. He had seen just one other person who was like Lu Xingchen. Fortunately, Lu Xingchen was not a threat to him for the time being. Otherwise, Jiang Hao would really be worried. The appraisal made him realize that his previous worries were unnecessary. Jiang Hao only needed to worry about himself now. Half a year had passed since the deaths. If there was anyone coming after him, they should have made a move by now. There was no reaction from the Heavenly Saints sect either. Jiang Hao didn't know if they had given up or if Senior Sister Ming Yi had dealt with it. It's been a while since I last met you, Junior Brother Jiang, said Lu Xingchen with a smile. Senior Brother Lu, how have you been, said Jiang Hao. They headed to the Spirit Herb Garden together. The spirit beast walked ahead of them. It stopped to catch some fish in the stream from time to time. Junior Brother Jiang, your beast is extraordinary, said Lu Xingchen. It is rare to see a beast in the middle stage of the Foundation Establishment realm possessing such intelligence. Usually, beasts in the middle stage of the Foundation Establishment realm weren't very smart. It was indeed rare for a beast to have such a high level of intelligence so early in cultivation. Jiang Hao sighed. It might catch some unnecessary attention. You have lived quite peacefully these past few months. The matter with Azure Mountain and other things has long passed. It might not be long when the Black Heaven sect would appear to negotiate terms to take their captives back, said Lu Xingchen. Have you heard anything about it? Jiang Hao shook his head. I haven't heard anyone mention it. However, he knew that this would have a huge impact on him. He had gotten tangled with Shenyuan Tai without meaning to. Then. Junior Brother Jiang, please be careful and remain on your guard. The Black Heaven sect, the Wind Lightning sect, and the Sunset Immortal sect might all send people here. I just don't understand why the Black Heaven sect would believe that I was able to capture Shenyuan Tai. I was only at the Foundation Establishment realm at that time. How could they believe that? Shouldn't they be concerned about Senior Brother Manlong instead? Lu Xingchen laughed. Manlong is one of the top 10 disciples. I think the Black Heaven sect thinks it's too much trouble to target him. Jiang Hao sighed wearily. So, they are just looking for someone whom they can harass easily. This matter is actually very complicated. When the time comes, they might not really come after you, but, in any case, just stay alert, said Lu Xingchen. I'll mean it. Especially after the spirit herb incident, is there a problem with the spirit herbs? The bone flower incident, specifically, Lu Xingchen looked at him. Li Kai and Ming Zhuochuan both died, and they were both connected to the mutated bone flowers. That was a huge blow to the 100 Bones forest. No one from there dares to pull something like that ever again. But, that doesn't mean everything is solved. Lu Xingchen paused. Have you heard of someone called Bai Yi? Bai Yi. Jiang Hao shook his head. Never heard of him. Lu Xingchen nodded. That's normal. Bai Yi is a very reclusive person. Even I rarely hear about him these days. However, it's not safe for him to remember you. Lu Xingchen looked worried. He is very talented, especially when it comes to spirit herbs and spiritual medicine. People fall into his trap without them knowing about it. You think this person has his eyes on me? He knew that Bai Yi wasn't just an ordinary disciple. He could tell from the nutrient pearls he had found in Ming Zhuochuan's storage treasure. In the past months, Jiang Hao had carefully used those pearls to restore nutrients into the soil in the spirit herb garden. He didn't dare carry the nutrient pearls with him after being detained by the law enforcement hall. He was still worried that someone might attack him and check his storage treasure. Lu Xingchen nodded. It's possible. Just, be careful. How strong is senior brother Bai Yi? Jiang Hao asked. Very strong, even stronger than me, said Lu Xingchen. Although he isn't among the top 10 disciples of the sect, his talent and his contributions are still very remarkable. Jiang Hao was silent. If he was stronger than Lu Xingchen, it meant that he was beyond the Golden Core realm. Jiang Hao really couldn't afford to offend him. As someone who made his way to the top from being an outer sect disciple, Jiang Hao knew about his own capabilities. Junior brother Jiang, don't worry too much. You're associated with too many traitors, so the law enforcement hall cannot let you go yet. You're safe for now. It was such an irony that Jiang Hao was safe because of the traitors he already killed. Oh, right. You'll be assigned a mission soon, said Lu Xingchen. You do know that a chunk of the year had passed without any incident, right? Said Lu Xingchen when Jiang Hao looked surprised. It's just a simple matter, said Lu Xingchen. You have to aid in recruiting new disciples. Recruiting disciples. Jiang Hao sighed. What kind of people would choose a demonic sect? Chapter 92. 92, An Invisible Method to Seal Cultivation. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 92. An Invisible Method to Seal Cultivation. Translator. Endless Fantasy Translation Editor. Endless Fantasy Translation. The demonic sects were different from the immortal sections. People wouldn't choose the former if they had a choice. The demonic sect was a cultivation sect. Here the strong devoured the weak. Jiang Hao was once sold into the Heavenly Note sect. It wasn't like he had a choice. The demonic sect was only safer when compared to the Devil's Denver. Lu Xingchen left after that. Jiang Hao walked to the spirit herb garden. Jiang Hao wanted to find out what the 100 Bones forest was up to. If Lu Xingchen had personally approached him to warn him about them, then Jiang Hao was in danger. If only all the people around me were like Lu Xingchen, Jiang Hao was reminded of the Demoness. It had been a long time since he met her. He looked at his interface. Name. Jiang Hao. Age. 22, Cultivation. Late stage of Golden Core Realm, Cultivation Method. Heavenly Sound 100 Revolutions, Hongmeng Heart Sutra, Divine Ability. 9 Revolutions Death Substitution, Unique, Daily Appraisal, Clear and Pure Heart, Reappearance of Hidden Spirit, Lifeblood. 77 out of 100, can be cultivated, Cultivation. 71 out of 100, can be cultivated, Divine Ability. 0/3, cannot be obtained. I'm already 20.2, it felt like he was only 20.1 yesterday. Hong Yuya hadn't visited for half a year now. His mind and his heart were calm, but he wanted to see her again. If she visited him, he could find out how much progress he had made regarding his impulsivity and recklessness. Without Hong Yuya, Jiang Hao was in a perpetual state of calmness. This is the first time in my life that I'm looking forward to her arrival. In the spirit herb garden, many people busied themselves with their own work. In the center stood a woman with a solemn face. She was dressed in beige clothes. Her hair was tied up in a simple bun. She was Fairy Ning Xian. Jiang Ho had only met her once before. Back then, he didn't know about her cultivation realm. Now that he knew, he realized that she wasn't an ordinary disciple. She had surpassed the Golden Core realm. Greetings, Senior Sister Ning. Jiang Hao bowed to her respectfully. Greetings to you too, said Ning Xian, icily. The Hundred Bones Forest wants to plant some spirit herbs here. I heard you have some misunderstandings with them. If anything happens this time, you can directly tell me. Please plant them in a suitable area. Ning Xian didn't think highly of Jiang Hao, nor did she look down on him. She treated him like how she would treat any other disciple. She was aware of the rumors regarding Manlong and Jiang Hao. All right, said Jiang Hao. His face was impassive. After that, Ning Xian left without saying anything further. Junior brother Jiang, said a woman. I'm assigned with the Hundred Bones Forest spirit herbs this time. I'm Lian Qin. Hello, Senior Sister Lian. Jiang Hao bowed. Jiang Hao could tell at a glance that Lian Qin was at the early stage of the Golden Core realm. These spirit herbs are quite precious, so I'll need to plant them myself. However, I'll have to depend on you a little, said Lian Qin. Later, if you find something wrong with the spirit herbs, you can come to me. I'll transplant them somewhere else. Jiang Hao nodded. All right, she said. We'll set up the defensive formation ourselves. Lian Qin looked to be about 30. She was very polite about everything and was vastly different from Li Kai. If the Hundred Bone Forest is really targeting me, then it won't be easy to deal with them. Senior Sister Lian, I'll do my best to help. A few people from the Hundred Bones Forest, including Lian Qin, planted some spirit herbs in one corner of the garden. Some of the herbs were familiar to Jiang Hao. Others, not so much. He decided to do some research on the spirit herbs. Jiang Hao observed them, but nothing seemed amiss. In the evening, the people from the Hundred Bones Forest left. Jiang Hao was puzzled. They left just like that. There was no problem with the spirit herbs, and Lian Qin had told him that she would be responsible if he found a problem with the herbs. This was too unrealistic. Maybe I'm just overthinking. Jiang Hao had no choice but to wait and watch. For the next 7 days, he spent all his time observing the spirit herbs. He also refined his cultivation and created more talismans. He needed to wait for another 3 months to advance further. Only then would he be able to comprehend the third form of the 7 forms of the heavenly blade. Jiang Hao observed the spirit herbs but didn't find a problem with them. Bai Yi didn't make a move either. Jiang Hao decided to refine his cultivation. He needed to go to the market to get more talisman-making materials. Right now, he only had around 200 spirit stones. Jiang Hao sighed. He was never going to get rich at this rate. When he sat down to cultivate, he felt a sharp pain. His eyes flew open in alarm. What's this? He checked every part of his body but found no problems. He tried to circulate his spiritual energy again and felt the same stinging pain that blocked him from progressing further. Jiang Hao used the daily appraisal ability on himself. He found nothing unusual, except for the heaven extinction goo poison. What is wrong, then? He couldn't figure it out. The only new thing that had happened in the past few days was that the people from the Hundred Bones Forest had planted new spirit herbs. Lu Xingchen had told him that he would unknowingly fall into Bai Ye's trap. Was this it? The next day, Jiang Hao walked over to the spirit herbs that had been planted recently. He used the daily appraisal ability on them. 1000 feather flower. The thousand-feather flower has a continuous stream of spiritual energy. It can be used to elevate the conflict when refining cultivation. Planting it here was Bai Ye's idea. It uses an invisible method to seal your cultivation progress. Bai Yi, Jiang Hao had never heard of something like this before. It was no wonder that Bai Yi was considered dangerous. I need to find out who he is and what his cultivation realm is. Jiang Hao told Ching Chou to call Yan Qin and have her transplant the spirit herb somewhere else. Let's see if that works. Fairy Yan Qin came over quickly. She neither refused nor refused Jiang Hao's request. She asked him where she could move the herbs to. Chapter 93. 93, Faster Than Mining. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 93. Faster Than Mining. Translator. Endless Fantasy Translation Editor. Endless Fantasy Translation. Junior Brother Jiang, is there anything else? Asked Fairy Yan Qin. Jiang Hao shook his head. After a few days, Jiang Hao once again tried to cultivate in his house. However, he felt the same stinging pain that stopped him. The next day, he used the daily appraisal on the thousand-feather flower again. The result was exactly the same as last time. He realized that no matter where the plant was moved, the effect wouldn't go away. How did he even manage something like this? Jiang Hao felt that Bai Yi was indeed crazy. He didn't look for Lian Qin. It was useless to look for her anyway. She was cooperative and polite. She didn't mind moving the herbs somewhere else, but it didn't make a difference. He waited for another day. Jiang Hao tried cultivating once again. He endured the pain and used the daily appraisal while cultivating. There was new information that appeared this time. Status: Heaven Extinguishing Venomous Insect and Bai Ye's Spirit Sealing Technique. The Spirit Sealing Technique was created by Bai Yi. It uses the attributes, taste, and spiritual energy to seal cultivation. It is invisible, colorless, and intangible. You can break its effect by planting a black lotus beside you. Jiang Hao heaved a sigh of relief. His problem had a solution. However, black lotus was not easy to find. He needed to visit the Snow Lotus Pavilion. This was also not a long-term solution. He still needed to find Bai Yi. As soon as the sun rose, Jiang Hao headed to the Snow Lotus Pavilion. The black lotus seed cost around 300 spirit stones. He kept a healing talisman and sold the rest of them. When he had enough spirit stones, he bought a black lotus seed. The next day, he used the daily appraisal ability on the seed. He wanted to know how he could speed up its growth. Black lotus seed. Powerful medicinal effect. After maturing, it can be used to increase one's cultivation. When planted, there will be invisible fluctuations that will affect the stability of the surrounding spiritual energy. 1 bottle of spirit liquid a day will help it sprout in 7 days. A bottle of spiritual liquid every day. Jiang Hao headed to the market to buy some spirit liquid. A bottle of spirit liquid cost him 30 spirit stones. He bought a total of 7 bottles. Jiang Hao was penniless once again. He sighed. The cost of raising a black lotus was high. 7 days later, the black lotus sprouted, and Jiang Hao got a blue bubble out of it. Jiang Hao had an idea. He had technically spent around 500 spirit stones for a blue bubble. If he had 50,000 spirit stones, maybe he could buy enough black lotuses to give him 100 bubbles. If he had 100,000 spirit stones, he could buy enough black lotuses to help him advance once every 7 days. This was faster than mining. It was all just wishful thinking. Where would he find 100,000 spirit stones anyway? Jiang Hao absorbed the bubble and began to cultivate. He didn't feel the stinging pain this time. He had wasted almost a month. Bai Yi was indeed terrifying. Master, why do you have so many different types of lotuses? Asked the spirit beast. There is a snow lotus, a blue lotus, and now a black lotus. Maybe get a white lotus next time. Jiang Hao was surprised. He had never noticed it before, but the beast was right. He didn't have many spirit herbs in his courtyard, but he had 3 types of lotus flowers. I wonder if anything will happen if I gather all 7 types of lotus flowers in my courtyard, muttered Jiang Hao absent-mindedly. Master, what are you saying? Nothing, said Jiang Hao. Let's go to the spirit herb garden. Bai Yi had made his move, the Heavenly Joy Pavilion was still waiting for an opportunity to attack Jiang Hao. He wanted to find out about Bai Yi as soon as possible. Master, I heard you have a mission to recruit disciples, said the spirit beast. Can I come with you? Jiang Hao shook his head. No, he was mentally exhausted. He didn't even know that the mission would be announced today. It was indeed difficult to survive in the demonic sect. If it wasn't someone trying to kill him, there was someone else sealing his cultivation. How did others survive? He was already 20.2, and he hadn't even congratulated himself for surviving this long. Shaking his head, he headed to the spirit herb garden. He collected bubbles and tended to the spirit herbs. Jiang Hao then made his way to the law enforcement hall to check the inevitable mission he was assigned. Jiang Hao of the Cliff of Broken Hearts. Mission: recruiting disciples. Minimum requirement: 300, maximum 1,000. Jiang Hao was surprised. So many. Is it because Azure Mountain really took a toll on the sect and the number of disciples? Jiang Hao remembered when he was sold to the demonic sect. They wanted to recruit 100 disciples at most. There weren't many people at that time, so the sect had to search everywhere. He was fortunate enough to be accepted as an outer sect disciple at that time. Although anyone could be recruited as a disciple, it helped if they had an aptitude for cultivation. Otherwise, they were left to fend for themselves in the demonic sect by doing menial jobs, which were often life-threatening. The mission wasn't easy, but Jiang Hao didn't have to complete the mission alone. He saw 4 other people from different branches. Zheng Shijiu of the Ice Moon Valley. Xinyue of the Thunder Fire Peak. Feng Baifei of the 100 Bones Forest. Yu of the Flowing Waterfall. 2 people I already know, and 2 new ones from the 100 Bones Forest and the Flowing Waterfall. Normally, there shouldn't be a problem. Jiang Hao couldn't vouch for the 100 Bones Forest. I wonder if I can ask the disciple from the 100 Bones Forest about Bai Yi. Something like that couldn't be rushed. He was only at the late stage of the Golden Core realm, after all. Although he had accumulated cultivation points, he was far from advancing to the next stage. He looked at the mission. It was 7 days later. It seemed that this time he didn't need to prepare so much. In the last mission, they all had been given a month to prepare before going to the Devil's Denver. 7 days later, he was called by the Cliff Master to his residence. On the way, he checked his interface. Lifeblood. 89 out of 100, can be cultivated, cultivation. 83/100, can be cultivated, he was already close. In 2 months, he could advance to the peak of the Golden Core realm. Jiang Hao still didn't know how strong he needed to be to match up to Bai Yi. Master, I greet you, said Jiang Hao and bowed. You are assigned with recruitment, right? Asked Ku Wuchang. During the recruitment process, it is important to find at least 3 talented and intelligent disciples and bring them to the Cliff of Broken Hearts. Under normal circumstances, the disciples would cultivate as outer sect disciples and wouldn't belong to any of the 12 branches. When their cultivation increased, they could choose to join any of the branches. However, the recruiter could choose 3 disciples for the branch they belonged to. Understood, Master, said Jiang Hao. What do you want to do here, Jiang Hao? Asked Ku Wuchang. I want to mine. Jiang Hao didn't say that out loud. Jiang Hao wondered if he could ask his master for help to remove the 100 Bones Forest spirit herbs from the spirit herb garden. However, he did not want to alert the enemy now. When he found out who Bai Yi was and what cultivation realm he was in, Jiang Hao would make another trip to the Hundred Bones Forest. Some things couldn't be rushed. Chapter 94. 94. Jiang Hao is chosen to take the fall. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 94. Jiang Hao is chosen to take the fall. Translator. Endless Fantasy Translation Editor. Endless Fantasy Translation. Jiang Hao sighed with emotion as he left his master's place. The Cliff Master, Ku Wu Chang, had given him 3,000 spirit stones. It seemed Mu Qi had told him that he was in need of spirit stones. Jiang Hao hesitated and then accepted them. He had never earned so many spirit stones. If he could save another 2,000 spirit stones, he could continue feeding the spirit beast. It might just awaken the beast's bloodline completely. However, that would mean Jiang Hao needed a newer and stronger collar for the spirit beast. At the foot of Law Enforcement Hall, Jiang Hao met Xin Yue and Jing Shizhou. They smiled and greeted him. Xin Yue smiled at him but was cursing inwardly. What sin did I ever commit in my past life to carry out a mission with Jiang Hao again? However, this time there was no one from the Heavenly Joy Pavilion, so there shouldn't be any problem like last time. Xin Yue was okay as long as he didn't drag her down. At the 100 Flowers Lake, Hong Yue placed a stone tablet on the table. She seemed to be deep in thought. A figure in white approached her and bowed deeply. Sect Master. Has the Heavenly Fragrance Dao flower made any progress in the last 6 months? Asked Hong Yue. It has grown a lot taller. The speed at which it grew is remarkable, said Baiji. Jiang Hao has been unusually quiet in the past 6 months. He seemed to be hiding and cultivating. Baiji was puzzled. Was barely above average when it came to his talent at cultivation, but he seemed very determined. We also investigated and found out that there's nothing wrong with him. However, some things don't add up. He was the biggest suspect who was directly related to Ming Zhuochuan's death. But, we found no evidence. If it wasn't him, it might have been someone under him. In my opinion, Jiang Hao doesn't seem like a traitor, but he also isn't entirely innocent. We still need to pay more attention to him. Considering that he is taking care of the Heavenly Fragrance Dao flower, traitors are bound to approach him anyway. It is possible that he is just being dragged into the fray by others who are actually traitors. Who is the person closest to him? Hong Yue asked. Lu Xingchen of Law Enforcement Hall. Is there a problem with him? From his behavior and past history, there seems to be no problem, said Baiji. However, not much is known about Lu Xingchen. He was tired of being a rogue cultivator, so he joined the Heavenly Note sect. Aside from that, his origins are a mystery. Is Azure Mountain planning anything? Asked Hong Yue as she walked to the flowers. Not after the blow they suffered last time. They are still recuperating. It's better to wipe them out by next year. No need. Just let them be for now, said Hong Yue. What's the Black Heaven sect up to? They said they might send someone to pick the captive, said Baiji. They want an explanation and also want to make someone pay the price for offending them. Then we wait for them to come, said Hong Yue. Oh, she picked up a box and threw it to Baiji. There was a wrist guard inside. Efforts need to be rewarded. Baiji bowed and left. She knew who the wrist guard was for. Jiang Hao was suspicious, but he was also worthy of a reward. Baiji thought that was at least how the sect master felt about him. As for Lu Xingchen, she didn't really care. Baiji was waiting for someone of high status to approach Jiang Hao. That was the only way to catch the traitors. It was difficult to get information about the higher-ups because they were very careful. The sect master had done her part by exposing the Heavenly Fragrance Dao flower. It was bound to attract traitors who thought they were safe in their high positions in the sect. The appearance of the Heavenly Fragrance Dao flower might have alerted so many enemies from outside too. The Black Heaven sect might have a hidden purpose for coming here. Baiji didn't know what to do, but she could at least guess the sect master Hong's opinion of Jiang Hao. Was the heavenly fragrance Dao flower something that only Jiang Hao could raise? At the Black Heaven sect, Situ Jian was sparring with another disciple. You have become better at this, said Situ Jian. Not good enough, said Huatiani as he shook his head. He left the training ground with Situ Jian. I heard that the sect will be going to the Heavenly Note sect in the near future. What do you think of it? I think it's better if the sect brings back senior brother Xianyuan without causing any problems, said Situ Jian. Huatiani laughed. You're still the same. If the elders hear this, they might think you support the enemy. The Heavenly Note sect isn't as simple as it looks. 100 years ago, a Demoness took the throne. Her methods were ruthless and decisive. We should be careful. It is said that other sects joined forces to capture her, but she disappeared. But she has been gone for 60 years. She might be dead already. I heard that the Heavenly Note sect is also looking for someone to take the fall for us. Situ Jian smiled and didn't say anything. The ones who were going to the Heavenly Note sect this time were ordinary elders, so nothing should go wrong. Situ Jian said goodbye to Huatiani and walked over to Ren Shuang. Ren Shuang talking to a middle-aged man. Tell me, when you were at the Heavenly Note sect, did anyone harass you? If anyone did something, I'll rush there and seek revenge, said Ren Tianhe. Ren Shuang touched her neck instinctively. She recalled Jiang Hao. However, she also remembered Situ Jian's warning. Ren Shuang was a little afraid of Situ Jian. She forced out a smile and shook her head. Nothing like that happened. Ren Tianhe looked at his daughter and sighed. You've grown up. After Ren Tianhe left, Situ Jian approached her. It seems that you are not as stupid as I thought you would be, junior sister Ren. Ren Shuang was flustered. Senior brother Situ, do you really think that person is very dangerous? I heard that he has been chosen by the Heavenly Note sect to take the fall. Even if he doesn't die, he'll be in danger. Who knows? Situ Jian looked into the distance. Only time will tell. Let's just wait and see what happens. Perhaps the choice that you made today will work in your favor. Chapter 95. 95. Recruitment of Disciples. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 95. Recruitment of Disciples. Translator. Endless Fantasy Translation Editor. Endless Fantasy Translation. Junior Brother Jiang, your cultivation has improved a lot, said Jing Shizhou as they waited for others to arrive. Not really. I can never hope to compete with you, Senior Brother Zheng. In the previous mission, Zheng Shizhou found Jiang Hao calm and reserved. However, after what happened inside the Devil's Den, he didn't dare underestimate him. Junior Brother Jiang, you won the competition, right? Asked Xin Yuye. Jiang Hao nodded. I really wanted that seed. Jing Shizhou sighed. You are always very cautious. Xin Yuye felt that it was such a pity that he had won and still chose the most useless of all the rewards. If it had been the cultivation technique, she would have offered to buy it from Jiang Hao at a decent price. However, Ning Wanping had taken the cultivation technique. Xin Yuye obviously couldn't get it from him. Many people were surprised that Ning Wanping had gotten the cultivation technique. He was actually the last one who got to choose the reward. Jiang Hao's victory once again made Xin Yuye and Jing Shizhou feel that this disciple wasn't as simple as he seemed to be. After a while, a woman with a huge sword on her back walked over to them. The sword at her back was very noticeable. She recognized Jing Shizhou at a glance. Hello, I'm Yu from the Flowing Waterfall. I'm very sorry to have made you wait. That's all right. We just arrived. Zheng Shizhou smiled. Junior sister Yu, your sword is very eye-catching. Don't you feel tired of carrying such a huge sword? Not really. I need it for my cultivation, said Yu Yu. Jiang Hao glanced at it. Yu Yu looked calm and collected. She didn't seem like a person who liked to talk too much. Judging from her aura, she must be in the middle stage of the Foundation establishment realm. A bald man walked over to them. He had rippling muscles and looked very fierce. He was Feng Baifei of the 100 Bones Forest. When Jiang Hao looked at him, Feng Baifei glared back. After the 5 people had arrived, they headed out to complete their mission. The recruitment was supposed to happen on another hill. On the way, they would have to pass through an abyss surrounded by clouds. At this moment, they were flying across the abyss. The sea of clouds made it very difficult to see things. They were on high alert. It is said that the sect's spirit beast, the heaven-devouring giant crocodile, is kept below. Zheng Shizhou looked at the clouds. Jiang Hao had heard the same thing too, but he had never seen the beast. There were people who had visited the place, but none of them had confirmed if the rumors were actually true. I heard that someone was eaten by that crocodile. It was an accident, but the law enforcement hall was alarmed, said Yu Yu. The 5 people increased their speed and crossed the abyss. After a while, they reached a mountain. There was a small square on top of it, but not many people were there, except a person who was at the early stage of the Foundation cultivation realm. Seniors, greetings, said Miao Xing. Miao Xing looked like he was in his 30s. It seemed that he was put to work to assist the sect because he had no hope of advancing further. Hello, junior brother Miao. Is everyone here already? Asked Zheng Shizhou. Yes. We were all waiting for your arrival, said Miao Xing. The weakest person from Jiang Hao's group was in the middle stage of the Foundation establishment realm. Miao Xing couldn't compare to them. He knew that, too. Junior brother Jiang, you have never done a recruitment, right? Asked Zheng Shizhou. I'll explain it to you. All the disciples who have entered the sect are already organized by the juniors. On the recruitment day, we just have to assess them and confirm their recruitment. The recruitment process is done in 2 ways. First, if someone has a talent for cultivation, we can directly recruit them. If the talent is not enough, then they have to go through another test that will gauge their willpower. If they do well in that, we can recruit them into the sect as disciples. If you feel that someone is suitable, you can even recruit them as an outer sect disciple for the branch you belong to. What we need to do now is to go to the foot of the mountain and see which disciples have a talent toward cultivation. As long as Tnei aren't taking, you can just recruit Tnem. I see. Jiang Hao nodded. I wonder if we'll find anyone talented this year, said Feng Baifei. The others were also curious. Everyone felt excited when it came to the recruitment process. If there was anyone with outstanding talent, they could always recruit someone like that to their own branch. Jiang Hao looked down from the edge of the mountain. There were many people gathered there. We had a total of 2,656 people who signed up this time, but only 2,632 showed up today, said Miao Xing. Most of them looked very ordinary at a glance. Jiang Hao himself wasn't considered exemplary. He was only slightly above average. Let's go down and test their talent. Yu Yu was eager. Jiang Hao felt relatively safer in this mission compared to the last. Feng Baifei occasionally glared at him but did nothing further. Everything was okay so far. He didn't think anyone would try to cause trouble during the recruitment process. This was an important mission for the sect, after all. Today, everyone put aside their grudges and did what they needed to do. They wanted to recruit the most talented to their own branch. Besides, the law enforcement hall had not found any proof of the murder. Since Jiang Hao was the biggest suspect at that time, the 100 Bones Forest just treated him as the enemy. However, they didn't have the evidence to make a move. Jiang Hao's group and Miao Xing flew down to the foot of the mountain. The people cheered. Most of them yearned to join the sect. Jiang Hao understood them. He was once in their place and had wished he could fly magically too. However, once they joined the sect, they would understand that it would be so hard to survive, especially when powerful people kept harassing the weak. There were two parts to the test. First, they had to test the compatibility using a jade slip. The more compatible a person, the more spiritual energy they would absorb from the jade slip. The compatibility couldn't be faked or improved because it was something innate. The next test was the Heart Sutra. It was a test of comprehension. This test confirmed whether a person had the talent for cultivation. Jiang Hao and the others, led by Zheng Shizhou, sat at a table and waited for the people to approach them to test their compatibility. They only had about 10 jade slips, but it was enough for the whole group. A jade slip was divided into 7 sections. If 3 sections lit up, it meant that the person holding it was compatible with spiritual energy, and hence, could join as an outer sect disciple. If only 1 or 2 sections lit up, the person would have to do the comprehension test. If none of the sections lit up, they couldn't join the sect at all. Miao Xing instructed the people to form an orderly line. They were allowed to move forward in groups of 10. In the first batch, only one person managed to light all 3 sections. Xinyu asked for his name and jotted it down. Jiang Hao could see the excitement and anticipation in these people's eyes. To them, it didn't matter whether it was a demonic sect or not. They just wanted to get in. Next batch, said Miao Xing. A little girl walked up to them. Jiang Hao was intrigued. Chapter 96. 96. The test was meaningless. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 96. The test was meaningless. Translator. Endless Fantasy Translation Editor. Endless Fantasy Translation. The girl was around 12 or 13 years of age. She had short hair and looked very disheveled. She looked malnourished. It was not uncommon for children to appear in groups like these. However, Jiang Hao saw more than most. The little girl's spirit was strong. Her physical strength was also remarkable. He could sense the spiritual energy between her breaths, but when she held the jade slip, nothing lit up at all. Jiang Hao knew that this wasn't an ordinary child. He was saving his daily appraisal ability in case he came across someone exemplary. If not, he would have used it on the child. Not a single person from this batch of 10 had managed to light up the jade slip. They needed at least 3 disciples to be recruited. If they couldn't find them here, they would have to search again. No talent, said the little girl in disappointment as she handed the jade slip back. Mia Xing was about to instruct the next 10 people to come forward when Jiang Hao stopped him. Wait. The others looked at him in confusion. What's your name? Asked Jiang Hao. If the girl was talented, he would take her back and recruit her to the Cliff of Broken Hearts. If she really had no talent, then he could tell her to go back to where she had come from. The little girl pointed at herself in surprise. Me. Jiang Hao nodded. Li. My name is Li. All right. Stand at the side and wait for the next test, said Jiang Hao calmly. Zheng Shizhou and the others were puzzled. They couldn't understand what Jiang Hao was trying to do. Miao Xing was confused as well. However, he didn't ask anything further. Little Li stood at the side and waited. Does Little Li have some kind of hidden talent? Xanyu asked. Yu looked at the little girl. She does have strong limbs and a great constitution. However, I can't sense anything from her. If she has no talent, I guess she could always learn martial arts. Feng Baifei shook his head in disdain. They all had limited spots and wanted to recruit very talented disciples for their respective branches. The test continued. From time to time, they found some people who could make 3 sections of the jade slip light up. However, no one till now had managed to light up 4 of the 7 sections. Jiang Hao and the others weren't in a hurry. They wanted to do this process slowly to find talented disciples. If 4 sections lit up, it meant a person had average talent. 5 and above was decent. However, nobody had ever managed to light up all the sections. That was uncommon. If something like that happened, they would have to inform their respective masters. Extraordinary people like that were usually fished out from the masses and taken to the branches. After testing 100 people, a girl managed to light up all 5 sections. After her, other 2 people managed the same. When they tested 500 people, someone with a superior talent appeared. It was a sloppy little boy. Everyone remembered his name. Jiang Hao paid attention to everything. The recruiters could choose 3 people for their own branch. Naturally, they remained on their guard. The test went smoothly. They had tested around 2,000 people by now. Some were happy to have passed, and others were sad. So far, they had found 9 people who showed above-average talent. Zheng Shijiu reminded them that a recruiter couldn't choose all 3 people with high potential. This was to give all the branches a fair chance. At this moment, 3 people approached the table. 2 boys and a girl. They were from the same village. One of the boys looked strong, while the other seemed frail and weak. The girl also seemed strong. Jiang Hao glanced at the frail boy out of the 3 people. He could sense that something was different about that boy. Something hidden. The other boy and the girl held the jade slips. All 7 sections lit up for both of them. Zheng Shijiu and the others were shocked. They got up from their seats. Jiang Hao didn't want to be the odd one out, so he stood up too. The recruiters were ecstatic to find top-notch talents. Meanwhile, Jiang Hao couldn't help but stare at the frail boy. Only 3 sections of the jade slip lit up for him. He barely made it. Jiang Hao wanted to use the daily appraisal on him, but he held himself back. He wasn't in a hurry, and he could always appraise them later. Zheng Shijiu calmed himself. You two, come here. Tell me your names. The boy and the girl walked over to him, while the frail-looking boy was left behind. He looked dejected. Jiang Hao didn't say anything. It couldn't be helped. Besides, the frail boy would survive longer in the demonic sect if he kept a low profile and stayed out of the way. People usually tried to harass weak people like him if he sought out too much attention. I'm Zhao Qingxue, said the girl. My name is Lin Mo, said the boy. Zheng Shijiu turned to the others. What do you all think? I don't think we can decide matters like these, said Xinuyue. The 100 Bones Forest will be willing to take one of them, said Feng Baifei. Would you indeed, said Yi Yu. We can't decide whether we want them or not among ourselves. They have top-notch talents. Junior sister Xin is right. We need to take them back with us and have the elders decide. Or do you think the 100 Bones Forest has the authority to choose for everyone? Do you think other branches have to sit tight and watch while you take them away? Who are you to decide who gets what anyway? Feng Baifei said in disdain. What do you think, junior brother Jiang? Asked Zheng Shijiu. It's up to you, senior brother Zheng, said Jiang Hao politely. No matter what they did, everyone knew that none of them had the authority to decide something like this. They could either inform their masters now or take the disciples along with them to solve the matter later in the sect. Maybe we should just get on with it, said Jiang Hao. There might be others equally talented among the crowd. They nodded. Zheng Shijiu told Miao Xing to keep the people coming in batches. They didn't find any top-notch talent other than the boy and the girl from before. Some were average, and others were just slightly more decent than average. Jiang Hao suddenly frowned. A young man approached them with a sweet smile. She was already in the Golden Core realm. She looked at them and smiled even more. Should I test too? She held the jade slip, and all 7 sections lit up. The others also knew that something was wrong. She was someone at the Golden Core realm, so the test was meaningless. Miao Xing also felt that this was strange. Any of you from the Cliff of Broken Hearts? Asked the woman. I am. Jiang Hao got up. Is something the matter? I want to join your branch. I heard you each get 3 spots to recruit people to your own branch. Select me, she said rudely. May I ask who you are? Jiang Hao asked politely. Miao Tinglian, said the woman and smiled. Jiang Hao was surprised. Chapter 97. 97, A Traitor. This time you are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 97. A Traitor. This time translator. Endless Fantasy Translation Editor. Endless Fantasy Translation. Jiang Hao knew her name. When he had appraised Mu Qi, her name had flashed in the information that his ability provided. She was a saintess from the Heavenly Saint sect, with whom Mu Qi had once had an affair. Jiang Hao was worried. He was puzzled as well. If she was a traitor or a spy wanting to enter the Heavenly Note sect, why would she reveal her cultivation and approach them directly? Your cultivation realm is very impressive. May I ask which sect you are from? Said Jiang Hao. The others were all surprised. So, there was someone this powerful among them and they hadn't even known it. The people felt fortunate that they hadn't tried to provoke her. Heavenly Saint sect, said Miao Tinglian honestly. I betrayed that sect and am here to surrender myself to your sect. If you agree to take me to your master, I'll pledge allegiance right here. Jiang Hao felt a headache incoming. He really didn't want to use his daily appraisal on just anyone. Both the Heavenly Note sect and the Heavenly Saint sect were demonic sects, but that didn't mean the two got along. They were equally crazy and brutal. Jiang Hao hesitated. Of course, nothing comes for free, said Miao Tinglian with a radiant smile. She took out a small vial. If you agree, this is yours. Zheng Shizhou and Feng Baifei were stunned. The heavenly rejuvenation pill was what they coveted the most to make it to the Golden Core realm. It was priceless. Jiang Hao stared at it. He was aware of what it was and wanted it very badly. It was usually priced at 3,000 to 10,000 spirit stones. He could sell it for even more. Jiang Hao activated the daily appraisal ability on Miao Tinglian. Miao Tinglian. One of the saintesses of the Heavenly Saint sect. In the intermediate stage of the Golden Core realm. Extremely talented. She defected from her sect and wants to join the Cliff of Broken Hearts to avoid being captured by the Heavenly Saint sect. She once had an affair with Mu Qi of the Cliff of Broken Hearts. She defected from her sect for him. Jiang Hao was speechless. When he had appraised Mu Qi a long time back, he had been worried that Mu Qi was a traitor because of his association with Miao Tinglian. Jiang Hao had never expected that the saintess would defect from her sect and betray them instead. Jiang Hao realized that she was not a threat for now. He pushed the vial back to her. The entrance test is tomorrow. I'm afraid you'll have to wait till then. First, I need to report to my master about your proposition. Please forgive me. Jiang Hao knew that if he accepted the pill, all responsibility would be on him. He would be blamed if anything happened. If he didn't accept the pill, then he was free from that burden. Zheng Shizhou and the others looked at the pill with hungry eyes. Miao Tinglian agreed to Jiang Hao's suggestion. The test continued. After the first test, they already had more than 300 disciples, including Miao Tinglian. Technically, the mission was complete, and they could head back home. However, they stayed for the second test. Miao Xing distributed the books to everyone. This was the people's last chance. Even if they failed in the talent test, they could always prove themselves in the comprehension test. However, people who failed the first test rarely managed to pass on the second. All right. Begin reading the heavenly sound string, said Miao Xing. Jiang Hao's gaze was on Little Li and the frail boy. The heavenly sound string was the first chapter of the 100 revolutions of the heavenly note and was used to test one's talent. Moreover, it was completely open to the public. Even other sects sometimes used the same method to test their disciples. It was said that the sect master had come up with this test. The book was also specially made with magic. If one's comprehension ability was good, the book would shine brighter. Conveniently, it was divided into 7 sections. A moment later, 2 men and a woman were selected because their books glowed the brightest. One of them even surpassed the last section. Everyone paid attention to it. Little Li still had no talent. Jiang Hao was confused. The frail youth managed to light up 3 sections again. His name was Lin Ji. I might have to appraise Little Li tomorrow, thought Jiang Hao. Lin Ji had barely managed to enter the sect. So, there was no need to appraise him. However, Little Li. Jiang Hao needed to confirm whether she was just an ordinary child, or if her talent was hidden. You all are so lucky. You found 2 top-notch talents from such a small crowd, said Miao Tinglian. Jiang Hao didn't say anything, but she was right. It was rare to find 2 top-notch talents among 2,000 people. After the comprehension test, there were 30 more people added to the list. The last test was a test of perseverance. Test for compatibility, comprehension, and perseverance. Very convenient, said Miao Tinglian. She was a golden core realm cultivator. There was no need for her to pass any test. If not for her complicated background, she would already be accepted as an inner sect disciple. We'll take them along with us tomorrow, said Jing Shijio. Have them stay somewhere for today. Miao Xing nodded. He then glanced at Jiang Hao. Senior brother Jiang, do I let Little Li stay or should I let her go? The little girl didn't have any talent. She had failed both tests. So, there was no reason to keep her back. Let her stay. I'll decide tomorrow, said Jiang Hao. He bid farewell to Miao Tinglian and flew back with the others. The 2 top-notch talents were also taken along to the sect. Before they left, Jiang Hao saw Zhao Qingxue and Lin Mo saying goodbye to Lin Ji. Lin Ji forced out a smile and tried to be happy for his friends. Everyone could see that the 2 top-notch talents had limitless potential and a bright future. Meanwhile, he just barely made it in. Jiang Hao hoped that Lin Ji could survive in the sect. He would need to find a way to live in the demonic sect where the strong harassed the weak. Jiang Hao's heart ached when he realized that Lin Ji might, in time, keep his distance from the 2 friends. He hoped the boy would be able to bear it. Seniors, which branch will we be accepted in? Asked Lin Mo on the way. We don't know yet, said Jing Shijio kindly. However, with your talents, you'll be valued wherever you go. Will we get to fly like you in the future? Will we be strong like you? Asked Lin Mo. Xinyue chuckled. You'll be stronger than all of us. Jiang Hao didn't say anything. Having such a high level of talent was enviable. However, being average wasn't bad either. Our friend, can he join us too? Asked Zhao Qingxue. He can't, said Yu softly. Lin Ji, right. I observed him for a long while, but his talent and comprehension are limited. The gap between you 2 and him, it's insurmountable. But I think you already know that. You're friends, after all. After a while, they landed at the entrance of the law enforcement hall. The masters of the respective branches were all summoned. They briefly explained the level of talent of the 2 kids. It seemed every master wanted them for their own branch. Jiang Hao told his master that he had some other things to report. Ku Wu Chang told him to follow him later to his residence. Jiang Hao was relieved. He needed to solve the problem of Miao Tinglian as soon as possible. Chapter 98. 98, A Dragon Who Wants to Earn a Living. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 98. A Dragon Who Wants to Earn a Living. Translator. Endless Fantasy Translation Editor. Endless Fantasy Translation. Jiang Hao had some free time, so he headed to the Spirit Herb Garden. As soon as she entered the garden, he heard the spirit beast talking with Ching Chou. 16-year-old daughters of rich families are the best. They give me fresh carrots. Ching Chou looked shocked. The spirit beast saw Jiang Hao at the gates of the garden. Master, you're back. I was just about to eat a carrot. Do you want some? Senior brother Jiang, greetings. Ching Chou bowed. Jiang Hao looked at him. Is there some problem with your cultivation? A little, said Ching Chou. He was embarrassed to ask for a solution, but he did it anyway. He asked many questions about his cultivation, and Jiang Hao answered him. You're about to advance. It's best to polish your cultivation for a few days to prevent any accidents, said Jiang Hao. Ching Chou nodded. Thank you, senior brother Jiang. Ching Chou had been in the 8th stage of the lifeblood refinement realm for too long. He was finally about to advance to the 9th stage. If he could advance to the foundation establishment realm, he would be accepted as an inner sect disciple. Ching Chou wanted to stay at the Spirit Herb Garden even after that. His talent was just average. He felt that staying here with Jiang Hao would be safer than anywhere else. Jiang Hao had just finished tending to the spirit herbs when Zhou Chan approached him with a box in her hands. She told him that Elder Baiji had sent her here to give the box to him. Jiang If. He looked at the transparent box and knew that the item inside was a part of the set of armor that he wore. It was a reward for taking care of the heavenly fragrance Dao flower for the past 6 months. Looks like a wrist guard. I need to appraise it first. He put that aside for the time being and headed to his master's residence. Come in, said his master as he knocked at the gate. Master, greetings. Jiang Hao bowed in respect. Ku Wu Chang looked like he was in a bad mood. Jiang Hao looked around and realized that the boy and the girl with top-notch talents weren't there. The other branch might have taken them away. You said you wanted to talk to me about something, said Ku Wu Chang. It's about a new disciple. Jiang Hao told him everything about Miao Tinglian. He waited for the cliff master to make a decision. Ku Wu Chang frowned. Accept her. All right. Since his master had approved of Miao Tinglian, Jiang Hao had only 2 slots left now. The next morning, Jiang Hao met with the other 4 recruiters and traveled across the abyss again. Does anyone know which branch took the 2 kids? Asked Jing Shizhou. We didn't manage to snatch either of them, said Feng Baifei in disdain. Us too, said Yu Yu. I only know that Zhao Qingxue joined the White Moon Lake, said Xin Yuyue. As for Lin Mo, I don't know. The others looked at Jiang Hao questioningly. He shook his head. I didn't hear anything either, said Jing Shizhou. It's also likely that the law enforcement hall might take one of them. They haven't taken in disciples for a long time. The law enforcement hall didn't accept just anyone. Many disciples wanted to join it, but they were always rejected. The law enforcement hall was very strict about who they let into their branch. Everyone was extraordinarily powerful in the law enforcement hall. After a short while, the group of 5 reached the mountain. This time, they were more relaxed. More than half the work was already done. They only needed to select 3 people for their branches today. Seniors, all the selected disciples from yesterday have already gathered. Miao Xing was standing in the square with a few hundred people. Jing Shizhou and the others nodded and went ahead to pick 3 people for their branches. Miao Tinglian walked over to Jiang Hao. Any updates on my case? You can come with me to meet the cliff master later, said Jiang Hao truthfully. He then walked to the edge of the mountain and looked down. Many people were still climbing up the mountainside. From the crowd, only a few would be able to make it. Jiang Hao felt sorry for them. It was so difficult to become a disciple. Many of them would slip and fall. Only a few would be able to make it. Someone shouted. A man had slipped. Jiang Hao flicked his finger, and an invisible force slowed the man's fall. The man landed safely on the ground and bowed to Jiang Hao in gratitude. Just go back home, said Jiang Hao. The man looked unwilling. He got up and left. Jiang Hao didn't know if the man would try to climb the mountain again. Maybe he would. Isn't it dangerous for you to show such compassion? You're from a demonic sect, after all, said Miao Tinglian. Jiang Hao didn't say anything. He bowed to her and left. He wanted to see the little girl from yesterday. Xiao Li was still waiting for him. Miao Xing had told her that the recruiters were undecided about her fate. Xiao Li worried about it. She couldn't go back home. She couldn't face her mother if she failed. When she saw Jiang Hao walking toward her, her face broke out into a hopeful smile. Jiang Hao used his daily appraisal on her. He was surprised that the feedback came a little slow this time. Xiao Li. She is related to the dragon race. Ordinary methods cannot determine her talent. She was injured by heavenly thunder and fell into a river. She has lost her strength and her memories. An old couple found her and raised her for a while. They had no choice but to send her here to be selected as a disciple so that she can earn a living. Jiang Hao was speechless. The small girl was related to the dragon race and had entered the selection process just to earn a living. She reminded him of Lu Xingqian, who had gone undercover and joined the sect out of pure boredom. Follow me, said Jiang Hao softly. Xiao Li jumped in happiness. Jiang Hao felt helpless looking at her. I can provide her with food, but there aren't many people who live outside the cliff of broken hearts. I hope she can fend for herself. As for her identity as a dragon, the cliff master would decide what to do. Jiang Hao approached Lin Ji. You should follow me too. Lin Ji was surprised to see Jiang Hao, but he felt good to be chosen. He nodded gratefully and followed Jiang Hao. Jiang Hao felt that choosing Miao Tinglian and the two kids might not attract so much attention. Chapter 99. 99, The Demoness Arrives. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 99. The Demoness Arrives. Translator. Endless Fantasy Translation Editor. Endless Fantasy Translation. Jing Shizhou and the others were surprised at Jiang Hao's choice. He had picked two of the worst people. One had average talent, while the other had none. However, Jiang Hao had gotten Miao Tinglian, so they felt that it all balanced out. Xin Yue also found it strange. Jiang Hao always kept a low profile, but she had seen what he could do. Xin Yue and Jing Shizhou were a little afraid of Jiang Hao. Feng Baifei looked at Jiang Hao in disdain. However, he didn't say anything. Miao Tinglian had made it clear that she wanted to join the Cliff of Broken Hearts. Nobody could stop her anyway. However, taking mediocre Nian into the branch would make it seem like the recruiters weren't doing a good job. Yu stared at Xiao Li. If she had any talent at all, Yu would have gladly accepted her in the flowing waterfall branch. Unfortunately, Xiao Li had no talent at all. It's almost time, said Jing Shizhou. Jiang Hao looked over the edge of the mountain. Some people had yet to finish their climb. There are still a few of them left. In the end, 20.6 people had managed to climb up the mountain. At the last moment, a young man struggled. His hands were covered in blood, and only half his body had managed to climb over. All right, time's up, said Miao Xing. Those who didn't manage to climb all the way up can leave. The man looked very ragged and bloody. His face fell, and he couldn't stop crying. Some of the disciples felt very sorry for him. Jiang Hao also felt sorry for him. However, one needed to be strong in body and mind to join a demonic sect. Otherwise, they would be torn apart. The competition was very cruel and brutal in demonic sections. Jiang Hao hesitated. Just then, Yu approached the man. Do you have a family? She asked. She was impressed by his determination. He had still managed to make it up to the top, despite getting injured on the way. If possible, she would take him back to the flowing waterfall. Yes, said the young man. Are you sure you want to join the sect? Asked Jiang Hao. Yes, Yu stomped her feet on the ground, and the man flew to the mountain's peak. Follow me. If you can keep up, I'll let you join the flowing waterfall. If not, I'll have someone take you away. Jiang Hao was surprised. Yu certainly wasn't as simple as he had thought. He glanced at the others, who were halfway up the mountain. Take the rest back down, said Jiang Hao. Miao Xing nodded. Jiang Hao fumbled in his bag and handed Miao Xing a spirit sword. Here. Take this. Thank you for being so helpful. Thank you, senior brother Jiang. Spirit swords were cheap, but they were still considered important. Miao Xing put away the sword and smiled at him. After that, Jiang Hao followed the others. They made their way to the outer gates of the sect. It almost took them half a day to reach there. This was part of the process. The journey nourished spiritual energy. After completing this mandatory journey, the new disciples would be given the 100 revolutions of the Heavenly Note Manual. The Heavenly Note sect is really generous. Miao Tinglian sighed. She knew about this path but had seen it with her own eyes today. In the evening, Jiang Hao and the others arrived at the outer gates. Ming Xiao would take care of the others from here, while Jiang Hao's group would take the selected disciples back with them to their branches. Everything had gone smoothly so far, and Jiang Hao was glad for it. However, he didn't know if taking Miao Tinglian to the Cliff of Broken Hearts might offend Mu Qi somehow. Mu Qi and Miao Tinglian had been together once, but Jiang Hao didn't know the current state of their relationship. Please follow me, said Jiang Hao to the 3 people beside him. Shaoli nodded and followed without complaints. However, her steps were a little unsteady. Jiang Hao knew that she was hungry and exhausted. Lin Ji lowered his head in apprehension. Miao Tinglian was a little nervous too. She was about to meet someone who would decide her life and death. If she was not careful, she would end up dead, or worse. Before Jiang Hao left, he turned to look at Yu. The determined young man was still following her without protest. From today, the fate of these new disciples would be different. Some of them might reach great heights, while others might be trampled and left behind. Jiang Hao led the 3 people to the Cliff of Broken Hearts. He headed to his master's residence. Jiang Hao explained everything to his master. Ku Wuchang glanced at Lin Ji and Shaoli once and ignored them. Jiang Hao couldn't tell whether his master was disappointed or glad to have new recruits. Take those 2 with you. Help them settle down, said Ku Wuchang. Jiang Hao nodded and led the 2 kids outside. Miao Tinglian stayed back. Just as Jiang Hao walked out into the courtyard, he saw Mu Qi standing there with a worried face. When he saw Jiang Hao come out of the master's house, Mu Qi approached him. Junior brother Jiang, are you done with the mission? Are these the new disciples? Yes. I'm going to show them around and help them settle down. Mu Qi nodded. Are there only 2? Jiang Hao knew that Mu Qi wanted to ask about Miao Tinglian. There is someone else too. Her name is Miao Tinglian. She said she defected from her sect and has come to surrender and join our sect. The matter is something I'm not authorized to handle, so I brought her along to meet our master. Mu Qi nodded. Jiang Hao left the place with Shaoli and Lin Ji. He wasn't sure if Mu Qi would blame him for bringing Miao Tinglian with him, but it was out of his hands. It wasn't like Jiang Hao had a choice. Furthermore, the defector was of the Golden Core realm. Jiang Hao had to report her. Nonetheless, Jiang Hao knew how emotions were. A grudge was a grudge. People don't consider other people's perspectives when they are emotional. Jiang Hao took the kids to the gathering place of the Cliff of Broken Hearts. From here, they would be left to their own devices. In the sect, it's important to maintain a low profile. Speak less and do your own thing. Avoid offending people, said Jiang Hao before leaving them. The 2 kids nodded. Late at night, Jiang Hao returned to his house. The mission was a success. From tomorrow, he would be able to get back to his routine. After a while, he continued with his cultivation. Jiang Hao was still surprised at the lengths people went to join a demonic sect. Although they were all forced by their own circumstances, Jiang Hao's heart went out to them. The next day, sunlight filtered in through the window. Jiang Hao stepped out onto his balcony and took a deep breath. The day was beautiful. When he looked down at the heavenly fragrance Dao flower, he noticed another person standing in his courtyard. She was dressed in red. Her long hair fluttered in the gentle breeze. She raised her head slightly and looked directly at Jiang Hao. Chapter 100. 100, The Demoness did it again. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 100. The Demoness did it again. Translator. Endless Fantasy Translation Editor. Endless Fantasy Translation. It was early morning. The gentle breeze swayed her hair. Hong Yuye stared up at the balcony. Jiang Hao looked down from his balcony. It felt as though he was looking at a beautiful painting. His heart was restless again. He caught himself in time. He was a bit disappointed because he had spent half a year trying to calm his mind and become more stable. However, the moment she turned up, his heart was in turmoil. Have you forgotten about me? Asked Hong Yuye. Jiang Hao ran down to the courtyard. I wouldn't dare. I was just too surprised to see you here, senior. Please forgive me. Hong Yuye's long red dress trailed behind her. There was a belt at her slender waist this time. She looked beautiful and regal, and Jiang Hao knew for a fact that she was extremely powerful. Only the heavenly fragrance Dao flower could lure her here. What have you been doing for the past 6 months? Hong Yuye asked. She was standing beside the flower. The spirit beast was unconscious beneath the peach tree. It looked bruised and swollen. Taking care of your flower, said Jiang Hao. Is that so? Hong Yuye looked at Jiang Hao and smiled faintly. She looked at the heavenly fragrance Dao flower. The flower has grown well. The fragrance is nice too. I like it. Jiang Hao was relieved to hear that, but he was worried too. Was she here to take the flower away? He would be doomed if that happened. Senior, I'm glad that you feel that way. Hong Yuye walked to the immortal peach tree. The tree had grown so fast that it was even taller than her. It might bear fruit this year, said Jiang Hao. Will the fruit be sour or sweet? Asked Hong Yuye. Sweet, I think, said Jiang Hao. Hong Yuye turned to look at him. If it turns out to be sour, I'll assume you lied to me. Jiang Hao was speechless. He felt like his words always got him into trouble, no matter how careful he was. The unconscious spirit beast was an eyesore. He picked it up and placed it on its blanket in the courtyard. Hong Yuye sat down on a wooden chair. She told Jiang Hao to bring her some tea. She took out a blueprint. Upgrade the surrounding array formation to prevent the environment from changing and affecting the growth of the flower. Here is a blueprint that you can use. I just saved up enough spirit stones recently to prepare for an upgrade. Jiang Hao brought out the tea. He had never even thought about upgrading the place. The blueprints and materials were simply too expensive. I don't see any powerful magical treasures or new techniques on you. Where did all your spirit stones go? Asked Hong Yuye as she sipped her tea. Jiang Hao was stunned at the question. He couldn't remember how his spirit stones had run out. Hong Yuye quietly sipped her tea. Jiang Hao glanced at her occasionally. She was frowning. He couldn't tell whether she was thinking about something else or if the tea tasted terrible. The tea he had bought recently was so expensive that Jiang Hao hadn't even made himself a cup to taste. I want to make a trip to a nearby town in a few days. Be prepared. Jiang Hao was shocked. Senior, what? Asked Hong Yuye. Her majestic aura surged. Are you busy? Jiang Hao felt suffocated by the powerful aura. Of course not. It'd be an honor to travel with you, senior. Still full of lies, I see. Hong Yuye got up and walked into his house. Jiang Hao heaved a sigh of relief and followed her. He thought she was only going to look around his living room. He didn't expect to see her making her way upstairs. Your small house seems sturdier, said Hong Yuye. I repaired it once, said Jiang Hao. Otherwise, it would have collapsed. He had appraised the house once before and learned what it needed to become stronger. It hadn't been easy, but he had repaired it properly. Hong Yuye went all the way to the balcony. She stood on the balcony and looked down at the courtyard in silence. After a while, she took a few steps back and faced Jiang Hao. Turn to me. Like this? Asked Jiang Hao as he stood before her and faced her. It felt strange, but he didn't dare refuse her. Hong Yuye nodded and stretched out her hand. She pressed her palm on Jiang Hao's chest. Jiang Hao was startled by the gesture. However, before he could say anything, he felt Hong Yuye give him a gentle push. He stumbled and fell backward. Jiang Hao tried to grab onto something, but he missed and toppled out of the balcony. He fell to the ground with a loud thud. It hurt a little. Since he was at the late stage of the Golden Core realm, a fall like this couldn't really harm him much. He got up and looked up at the balcony in confusion. Why would she do such a thing? Jiang Hao couldn't take her eyes off her at that moment. The breeze swayed her hair. Her dress ruffled in the wind. She stood on the balcony with her hands on the railings. She looked at him calmly. Their eyes met. Jiang Hao's restless heart calmed down. Jiang Hao wondered if she was reminding him that only she could look down on him, and he had somehow slighted her by doing the same. Just remember to be free on the day I come looking for you, to travel. Hong Yuye stared at him. Otherwise, there will be consequences. She then in thin air. As soon as she disappeared, Jiang Hao heard the spirit beast's wails. It hurts. It hurts. The beast covered its face and shouted. Jiang Hao didn't understand why the Demoness had to beat up the poor beast whenever she visited. I don't know why she wants me to come along with her, Jiang Hao couldn't think of a reason. Besides, his name was still on the law enforcement hall's list. He needed to ask Lu Xingchen if he could travel to a nearby town. With Hong Yuye around, there wouldn't be any danger, but he was afraid that people might discover her existence. Jiang Hao sighed and put the blueprints away. He prepared to head over to the spirit herb garden. As soon as he walked out of the courtyard, a talisman flew to him. It was a communication talisman. Jiang Hao checked it. It was from the Cliff Master. He frowned. The message said that Xianyuan Tai wanted to see him and had asked Jiang Hao to visit him at his prison. Why does he want to see me?